What's up, everybody? Welcome back. So before I get into this, I want to say that I realized last month for Patreon hasn't been great, and I need to be more productive in general. I apologize. Jerry flew Aaron and Max out for sci-fi, basically skating, like nonstop for 2 weeks. So I was not focused enough on work, but I am committed this month. I'm going to do my absolute best to produce tons of content for you guys. So I'm going to try to catch up a little bit here this week, next week, the week after. Locked in. I claimed in one of the comments that you guys better bundle up for a content blizzard. So, the first thing that I wanted to cover during content season right now is I just want to do a general sort of stock of the state of skateboarding shoes because a while ago when corporate shoe companies first started, entering the space of skateboarding, right? That was contentious. There was a lot of debate about it. And I think we're kind of at the point now where most people have accepted it and come to terms with the fact that skateboarding is not completely, destroyed and blown to smithereens by Nike, Adidas, New Balance being involved, but actually potentially skateboarding might be kind of better off for it. I feel like that's not a totally insane thing to say. And given that that's my opinion on it. Given that, I wanted to take stock of all of the kind of relevant shoe companies that are out right now. I'm not going to look at Fallen or something that is just like a pointless piece of shit. I will be looking at a couple borderline pointless pieces of shit, but I wanted to try to answer the question of what shoe company is best. What is the best skateboarding shoe company at the moment? Maybe you could frame it like if there was a company if you could have a shoe contract from any company in the game, who would you accept? I think for starters, we'll go with some company that I don't think is doing really too hot. I mean, it's Cinco de Mayo right now. You probably saw this already. It's Cinco de Mayo sale. All shoes are $55.55 today only. Like, if that doesn't kind of give you an insight onto the direction of things, I don't know what will. I guess this is, part of my own like little snow globe or world that I live in where I just can't believe that Etnies is still in business. They're not the worst Soul Tech brand. They're definitely not, but they aren't great. Their whole like ethos at the moment is guy who's too overprotective of his daughter that might end up on the news because, he shot his daughter's prom date. Very conservative, like very gun owner-ish, and very plan B. That's the other thing. You look at their team, pretty much almost all of their crucial riders are plan B skaters. So Chris Joslin, Trevor McClung, Ryan Sheckler, and Aurelian. The rest of these guys are mostly filler people. Nick Garcia is kind of an important dude, and I would also say that Andy Anderson is a big deal for them as well. Their cup sole stuff, even though like none of this shit is great, it is way, way better than their Volk stuff. And that's where Soul Tech generally really, really fails, is in the Volk department. Like, look at these fucking things, man. A slip-on, I mean, I think there's kind of this idea that these companies have for some reason. They're like, we have to make a slip-on because we're a shoe company. It's like, you actually don't have to make a slip-on. It's not required. I don't know who the fuck is asking for this. This E on the side, like, who the fuck puts their logo there on a slip-on? It's kind of how I feel about the New Balance N. I'll talk about that more later, but it's just stamped on there for the sake of it. It does nothing to aid, the shoe at all other than just putting your branding on the side of it. I also think Etnies does a very bad job with colors. The Joslins, miraculously a shoe for adults, but is like structured and has the appearance of a baby shoe. And outside of its hilarious proportions, it's just an unmemorable piece of shit. I mean, I've heard it's a decent enough shoe, like it skates well, but like, they did like for the logo, they have the Etnies with like some claw like marks on it. I don't know what to tell you guys anymore, man. I don't think we need to spend too much more time on Etnies unless we want to talk about the fucking... This is something that, and in my opinion, the non-core companies actually have done well, is they don't listen to skateboarders that much anymore. You know, what on earth is the fucking point of this Velcro strap? It's a total gimmick. I think if you're going to add some huge piece to the top of the shoe, it should have some aesthetic and functional merit to it. Maybe you could argue that this is going to stop your shoelaces from ripping, but like at what cost? I don't even know if this is an Andy Anderson Pro model shoe or not. You know, Widrow Volk Mid X Rebel Sports X Andy Anderson. I don't know what the fuck is going on. I think Andy Anderson is a member of the autistic spectrum, but he is not residing on that part of the spectrum that is going to be, you know, fluent in design. He's going to be on that area of the spectrum that would have like a ridiculous wealth of knowledge about model trains. You don't want to like let Andy Anderson run free, or you end up with something like this. I have actually no idea if he did design this or not, and I don't really care. I'm mostly saying that for the bit, but yeah, you can see more atrocious Volk shoes. I mean, this is just like the Chukka. I don't even think they make those anymore. I haven't seen them in ages. At least Vans is smart enough to know that. I mean, they're just, for years and years and years, traditional core skateboarding shoe companies just put out the laziest, bullshittiest designs because they didn't have to compete with the major companies. You know, that's one of the good things that corporate shoes have brought to the space, is actual like competitive design to the skate shoe industry. I mean, this is just like a generic piece of crap that you could plaster almost any traditional skateboarding logo. Like Fallen probably has a shoe just like this. S probably has a shoe just like this, you know? Circa had a shoe that was just like this. DVS had a shoe that was just like this. It's all lazy crap, and Etnies is still doing it. I don't know how or why they are able to. I'd say the state of Etnies right now is pretty bad. These are kind of badass, but these are mountain biking shoes. So those aren't even skate shoes. Anyway, yeah, the only real redeemable shoes that I feel that they have right now are the Faders, which is just like a classic Etnies design. You really can't beat these. I mean, these are fucking badass. But these are badass, but they're also extremely niche, you know? Most skaters aren't going to be rocking those. I also think that these low cut 2 LS things are sick as fuck, but these aren't even skate shoes. And these are kind of a rip-off of just like a general kind of lifestyle. I think Adidas has one that's quite similar to this. By and large, I think about 90 to 93% of what Etnies makes is shit. And I don't think they have a cool team. They don't make cool videos. I like some of their skaters, like Jocelyn, kind of. I like Jocelyn's old street footage, you know, as Fatty to Flatty representative number 1. And I like him in Street League now, but like, you know, generally speaking, they're extremely uncool, and that's why they're selling their $120 shoes for $55. Let's keep talking about depressing shit right now. We'll save kind of some of the better ones for a little later, I think. Emerica. Somehow, I think, because like I said, you know, Soltech has no idea really how to do Volk shoes, and Emerica is, I think, almost all Volks. All of these are fucking Volks. And you look at them, and there's not one on here. There isn't a single fucking shoe on this website that I would want. Big Spanky fan, love Spanky, excellent skater, but who the fuck is spending $110 on the KSL G6X Shake Junt? I mean, this thing is so fucking fried. Like a leather presenting shoe with like green sole and lining. I mean, what the fuck is this? How did this make it into production? What a colossal piece of fucking junk. It looks like an Ugg boot that got ran over. Their videos fucking suck. They show zero interest, you know, in trying to change anything up or do anything different. And it feels like they're just petrified because there was a point in time where they were successful, but that point in time is not now. You guys have to hire some new fucking people, get some fresh individuals, you know, behind some of this shit, Create some new shoes that are kind of competitive with the modern market. I mean, what the fuck is this? This could have come out in 2009. It probably did come out in 2009, and they're still selling it. I think Emerica is actually worse than Etnies. I'd rather wear Etnies than Emerica, because at least Etnies have the fader. They have a couple shoes that, you know, I wouldn't mind taking a hike in, but none of these are good. None of these fucking things are good. And like I said, the videos are depressing. You know, every Emerica video feels like the fucking last one. The same music, the same tricks, the same skaters, the same green fucking filter on the top of it. It's like there is a point where you can be too core where it's boring. The whole thing is completely gridlocked and stuck in a different fucking era. $95? Are you serious? If I owned a skate shop, I wouldn't carry these. It would negatively affect the overall aesthetic of my establishment. I wouldn't carry Emerica shoes. Find me one on here that looks decent. I mean, look at their team too. Oh boy, look at these fucking alcoholics. Just the dream team. Besides Spanky, he's sober, good for him. That Leo Romero part that came out, "This is the way we move," perfectly distills the issue with these fucking guys. These are dinosaurs, you know? Braden Hoban is like a young guy, but the type of skater that he is ancient. Emerica is a fossilized version of a skateboarding shoe company. Clearly this, I guess, appeals to some people too still, but like it's so painfully dated, and they still have the green filter on all this stuff. Change something, please. Like, take one fucking creative risk. It seems like they're content to just keep pushing and doing the same exact thing until the fucking wheels fall off. But to me, they look pretty doomed. You know, the only thing that they have going for them is that they can claim that they're core. But, you know, is that enough to convince most people these days? I don't think so. They've got to go. I think, you know, I don't even think it's worth, I have S on my list here too. I don't even think it's worth talking about S2. I don't want to cover 3 Soltech shoe companies, but like, you know, revamping these brands like S and Fallen reminds me of like kind of how I'm feeling about my ex-girlfriend at the moment. Once these companies are gone, just like once my ex-girlfriend is gone, you idealize them, and it's impossible to be rational about the way that things were and the reason that you broke up and the reason why Emerica and S went under in the first place. You miss them so much, you forget all of the bad things, all of the faults that these companies had. So when they get revamped and nothing changes, none of the issues that led to the downfall of these companies or the breakup of myself and my ex-girlfriend, none of those issues have been addressed. We're both still the same people, and these are the same shoe companies putting out the same fucking models, and they, for some reason, have an expectation that it didn't work then, but it will work now because of nostalgia's sake. If things are going to work in the future between, you know, me and my ex-girlfriend, there's personal growth that is required, you know, attitude adjustments, you know, reframing. That's the only way forward. Evolution requires change. So that's why I have a therapist appointment on Tuesday. And you know, hopefully I will not go down like fucking Emerica is going down. Do you know what I'm saying? So maybe I'll get back with my ex-girlfriend. Maybe I won't. But ultimately, hopefully, I will be a more suitable partner in the future so I don't fucking die alone. S and Fallen relaunching, trying to exist in 2023. They're going to crash and burn because they've made no meaningful changes. They are the same flawed entity that they have always been. When you say DC, what pops into my head is not great. Like, I think of a shoe company that is kind of washed, but when you go to their website and you take a look at their offerings, everything came flooding back of like, oh wait, this is the DC that is like the reimagined and revamped kind of niche company that focuses primarily on, you know, plaza/ledge skating. You know, a bunch of guys in big fat fucking pants doing nollie inward heel flips and kickflip backtail shoves and that kind of shit. Like John Shanahan style skaters. I don't know exactly how they kind of arrived at this version of themselves, But in the year 2023, something like the Lynx, if you're the kind of skater that this appeals to and you have the wardrobe that can accommodate, something that's like a D3 sized, sort of cartoonish, ridiculously puffy skate shoe, I think you could be a lot worse off than to be a DC shoe ledge skater. These are kind of cool. Sometimes I think it's a little ridiculous with some of, like the genie pants and shit that we see. But it is an aspect and a division of skateboarding that is unique and I think has a distinct cultural flavor that is a valuable contribution to the tapestry of skateboarding overall. Now, I think that these big puffy shoes that DC does are excellent. Even the ones that aren't that puffy, these are kind of like their version of a dunk. You can see like the bottom is very dunk-like, shoe being a different colored with those indentations. So, these are cool too. The bronze collabs are always good. The stuff that DC does well, I think they do it possibly the best in skating, if not one of the best. But the problem, I guess, for DC is that where they don't do well, they do really poorly, which is the Volks. Now, I wouldn't say that these are quite as bad as some of the Emerica Volks or anything. These are okay-ish to decent looking, but it's almost like this traditional DC logo just doesn't really work on a Volk shoe. It kind of is just begging to be plastered on some massive, behemoth style thing. These kind of just look cheap. Factory made, preset, Chinese, order 8,000 of them straight from the factory. Then you slap your logo on them, type of thing. In my opinion, they should make a decision, which is that we know there's a market for shoes that look similar to this, but not quite like this. Converse, Last Resort, very bare bones, scaled back. They didn't put the logo on this one. They still put it on the tag here, which, it's almost like for this kind of shoe, you want no logo or an entirely different logo. I think the shoes like this that work, like I said, Last Resorts and Cons, the ones that are basic for the sake of being basic, they don't have logos on them. So I think that if you're going to make a shoe like this, you take note of that. The other thing is, and they almost have, but they couldn't resist sticking the little flag on the side of it. These do fail for other reasons too. Like you look at the toe cap and it's just like this disgusting like textured thing that looks like you sprayed it on. The white version of it is even worse somehow. Either you focus some time, effort, and resources on designing a Volk shoe that works and is attractive, or you just cut it all together and you focus only on the puffy shoes. Because I do think that when you have a website with ugly shoes on it, that aren't your best work, it kind of detracts from the experience or the brand of your shoe overall. They still make the good shoes, but when you also make the shitty shoes, I think that doesn't help your overall aesthetic. I like these loud colors. I think these are cool. These are going to be way too much for most people. They almost look like basketball shoes. But I think it's sick they're doing something different. They don't need to make slip-ons, It seems like DC is at their best when they're making something over-the-top, loud, and absurd. Taking the company into the direction that they have has been a really smart move. You don't want to give, like, Wes Kramer and Evan Smith, even though they are good skaters, you don't want to give these guys any kind of creative control, I don't think. Otherwise, you end up with something like this. All I did was Google Evan Smith Pro Shoe, everyone involved in this should be shot and killed, including Evan Smith. These are fucking unbelievably bad. I mean, they do it here too with this, I don't even know what that is. Some kind of red cheetah print type of thing. I mean, it just does not work at all. Just because Evan Smith thinks it's a good idea, that does not mean it's a good idea. Maybe we shouldn't do a black shoe with a zebra outsole. So I don't think DC is the coolest or the best shoe program in all of skateboarding right now. But I think that they're a lot cooler than they used to be, and they should get some credit for that, for sure. So I actually kind of like DC. They're definitely not for me. I'm like a kickflip poke skater, but I do kind of respect, like the switch hard flip type of guys and front crookers that I see at the skate park wearing these. I'm like, that's not a bad path to go down these days. Okay, let's go now to my own personal shoe sponsor. Last Resort, this is, of course, Pontus's shoe company. Let's start off with the negative about Last Resort. First of all, I think that they have kind of an image problem. So, I initially was not like too worried about this because I'm like, the company is really just starting out. You can't really expect them to build out anything that's, that diverse and varied. They're a small company, so they're going to be going for kind of a smaller or more specific / niche demographic. And they have done that, but I think that they have done that now for a little bit too long. The team, it's how you kind of communicate the type of skateboarders that you want to sell to. Last Resort's team is essentially like not the same dude, but a very similar dude like 7 or 8 times, like Paul Grund, Billy Trick, Chris Millick, Frankie Decker, Jesse Alba, Nick Rios. All of these skaters kind of skate pretty fucking similarly, and they definitely look pretty similar too. It's essentially a group of white guys doing slappies, firecrackers, wall rides, pole jams, etc. When I try to visualize the Last Resort team in my head, I just see the cast of Mad Men. They don't have a single girl skater on the team. They don't have anybody that isn't a white guy. I think they're putting on a couple Japanese skaters, but they're actually Japanese skaters that live in Japan. And I'm not one of the kind of skaters, I'm not one of the people that is kind of like, you have to make your company diverse just for the sake of it because you have to kind of have 30% of your team needs to be non-white because you have to kind of reach some arbitrary number. That's not what I think. But what I do think is that with the style of skater that Last Resort is focusing on, they're actually pigeonholing themselves. And I think that they could have a wider reach than they do have because of the way that the team is constructed. Although a lot of people, I think, agree that the shoes look very cool, and tons of people are waiting for a shoe company just like Last Resort to deliver them the basics in cool colors. And that's what Last Resort has done. They've also been kind of frustrating with, a lot of the shoes not really being up to snuff yet. Performance issues, the shoes blowing out too fast. And the shoes are, they're getting them better, and it's taking time. They're doing it drop by drop. The new insole isn't perfect. It's a little too puffy, a little too soft. They could dial that in better. But they are kind of like, at the moment, I think your best option for a core skate shoe company. Sometimes people will hit me up and they'll tell me that they were, disappointed with the shoes or whatever, which I'm sorry to hear. But I don't work for them. I don't get paid by them. I skate the shoes, because I like them and I get them for free. But if you're somebody that's looking for optimal performance out of your skate shoe, don't go to Last Resort. This is like a tiny company that is figuring it out as they go. If you want the best of the best, then go to the companies that have been doing this for like 100 years. Get Adidas, get Nike, get New Balance. Don't expect, to get like a fucking suede Last Resort high top and have it be comparable to a Tiago, because you will be disappointed. Visually, I think that Last Resort has pretty much accomplished what it set out to achieve, which is just a low profile shoe that doesn't need a bunch of logos all over the side of it to be successful. And the way that they've managed to create a shoe that still works without all these flourishes and bells and whistles on it is just by paying lots of attention to the small details like the stitching on the side, the size of the laces. I think one of Last Resort's biggest strengths is the colors they produce. Drop after drop, I always come away feeling like 90% of what they put out looks just excellent. They might have some of the best colorways out of any shoe company, period. I also think they do a good job when they pair the little logo. They're very sensitive about how that matches up and plays off of the color of the shoe itself. Like I said, just the small details, the things that, really matter when you make a simple shoe, Last Resort kind of nails those. And they have to, because it's not the highest performance, it's not the highest quality, but the shoe itself, especially when it's brand new out of the box, it is a really, really good looking shoe. The only thing I would say is that I think they are airing a little bit, or Pontus is airing a little bit on like the insane area here, with some stuff like this. When I go to the warehouse and I get the shoes and I open up a box like this, I'm just confused. Almost all the colorways that Last Resort puts out are phenomenal. And then they hit you with something like this where I'm like, who wants this? A similar way I feel about the Croc shoes. It's just like, I actually like the color of them, but the finish is just bizarre. Weird machinations of an unwell mind here. The other problem that I have a little bit with Last Resort is they do feel a little too serious to me. I think especially with, their team, like Chris Millick is their premier pro, who's kind of a little bit of a sillier guy. I think you want to bring a little bit more Bumble Meek and a little bit less Daniel Dent onto the scene, because, you make like a bright green shoe like this, you'd expect the company to have like a more fun and less formal vibe to it. But it does kind of ironically, it's all about breaking free, this and that, but it does ironically have this like kind of very stern feeling about it. All the ads and stuff they do are like very, like fucking grainy wall ride off a tree, with like some quotes on it. Like the aesthetic of the company is hyper fucking serious. It comes across as a little bit self-righteous to me, where I don't think it really needs to be that. But overall, I think more people would buy Last Resorts if the shoes performed a little bit better. And I think that if they diversified their team a little bit and they took themselves a bit less seriously, that's kind of the improvements that I could suggest to Last Resort from where I'm sitting.